One. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Delusions of Grandeur. I'm your host, David Streggy, and here we have in the room with us Kotobuki Jake. Hello.
Hello.
And right next to him, we have Mo. Hello, Mo.
Hey, how you guys doing?
And we also have Preacher.
Oh, special guest.
Since we have a video.
So last week I had you guys. We were originally going to do a double feature, but I wasn't able to watch the one. Just things have been kind of crazy. But I figured since I did end up rewatching this film that we are going to do, we are going to go on about a movie that was filmed in 1998. 1998.
There I am.
What happened?
I don't know, man.
Them clowns.
I did a Close Encounters review for Rebel Gaming Club this morning. I think the aliens are on to me.
But in any case, we're going to go on about a 1998 feature called Six String Samurai, directed by Lance Mungia. And it was filmed in 1998. And before we go on about our first impression, I'm going to read this little IMDb post about what they think this film is about. And it says, in the post-apocalyptic world of 1960s Nevada, a rock and roll samurai on his way to Las Vegas takes a young orphan boy under his protection as Death and his metalhead horsemen chase after them. So,
it's about the size of it.
It just sounds like the stuff of classics there.
Mo, I'm going to ask you about your first impressions of this film. Was this a first-time watch for you?
Oh, definitely. For some reason, I thought it was going to be like some 60s sort of samurai movie or something, like something from the 60s or 70s. So the title did its job. And, I thought it was dope. For some reason, I thought it was going to be totally like, what are those like weird Japanese guitars that I thought it was going to be like that, but Zatuichi. So I was a little disappointed at first, but then I realized like, oh, this is a sick B movie. So I guess it's still worth the time, First impressions is it's definitely fucking weird. It could use a little bit of blood and gore to balance out the cheese factor a little bit. I think I'm sure we'll get around to talking about that, but I enjoyed it, Wanted to chuck that little bastard down a ravine when I found out he could talk part of the way through it. That shit was getting on my nerves, man.
Dude said something. He's like, "Oh, I thought I liked you better when you couldn't talk." Or something.
But other than that, it simultaneously hits a lot of marks of things that I like. Like it's got a lot of sort of stuff that's nods to definitely samurai movies and like badly put together kung fu movies, complete with like the super awkward fucking camera angles. Sometimes I loved it.
Right.
And it's even got some qualities in common with badly dubbed anime, which I enjoyed.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, I could see this being a kick-ass anime.
Definitely.
I would love that.
I would love if someone put this together in an anime.
That'd be sick, dude. And just make it like all late 80s, early 90s. That could be a
Kickstarter project there.
But
I could go for a video game of it too, honestly. I'm sorry, buddy. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Jake, what are your first impressions of this film?
Well, I have to admit, I too was misled by the title. Yeah, I was kind of thinking something kind of a Zatuichi vibe, but with the guy being a musician, kind of like, honestly, you had wanted to pair this with El Mariachi, and that's kind of, I was thinking it would be more like that thematically and tonally, just obviously more of a samurai bent. Really, the only thing samurai about this is the dude has a sword. I mean, really, it's not that much at all a samurai pick.
Which he ditches after the first fight and just does kung fu.
Well, he still has it, and
He still
it's
has
like
it. He just
the
forgoes
kid
it.
keeps. It's sort of like this symbol because the kid keeps grabbing the sword and that sort of thing, I guess. But I like how he just has a tape to the back of his guitar. But, for a musician, he doesn't treat his guitar all that well. But
so
basically, it could be, to me, my take on it is essentially it's a post-apocalyptic kind of, goofy kung fu dramedy with kick-ass music. And it's sort of like the main guy does his best Clint Eastwood impression, but instead of being the man with no name, he's the man with Buddy Holly glasses. It's kind of
which his name is in fact Buddy.
Well, and apparently they tried. Apparently, the implication is that this is Buddy Holly, but it's not really stated. It's just kind of implied.
Hey, I never believed
like
he
that
died
idea.
in that plane crash, though. Like, he's out there somewhere with Tupac.
I like how the film kind of sets in motion that in this post-apocalyptic world where the Russians have taken over the planet, Elvis was the king of this world, and whatever left of the world is Las Vegas.
Well, I mean, he's the king of Las Vegas, which is basically, I guess, the last bastion of America in what used to be America, I guess, which is kind of a very sad way for things to go. But this was an interesting movie, and my first impression is highly amused, a little bit bored, and glad that I saw something this batshit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like it was time wasted. I don't know if it's time well spent, but it was. I enjoyed it.
It was something. I mean, I don't know what got me first, the rockabilly or the fact that the Four Horsemen of Death were after this guy's butt. But in any case, so the film begins with obviously a fight, and somewhere in the whole fight, evidently a kid's parents die, and while his parents die during this fight, he kind of sees this legendary hero or whatever he is. Fly through with his broken umbrella, and he starts to follow him, and he's telling the kid to go away every step of the way. But no matter what, the kid's attached to him like a flea on a horse. So, what do you think of Buddy, the main character, the guy who does all the kung fu? Either one of you.
I know kung fu.
I enjoy him. His delivery of the dialogue is just superb. I love it.
Right.
Well,
I think he knows the tone. Well, I mean, he co-wrote the dialogue, but he
definitely delivered like a spaghetti western.
Right.
Well, yeah, a lot of the people in this are very self-aware of what kind of movie they're making, for sure. But that guy, I think, did the best job of it being like funny,
Right.
He reminds me a bit of Vash the Stampede for some reason. I don't know why.
Right. Well, and actually, I was going to make a Trigun reference when we were talking about doing this as an anime, because there is a little bit of a Trigun vibe.
For sure.
Yeah. But I just, again, the look, just the idea of of all people, a Buddy Holly stand-in being this like great hero just amuses me. And yes, he does do a serviceable man with no name impersonation that just makes the lines that much funnier.
So after the kid kind of follows him a little bit, he tries to draw a line in the sand and tell him about this monster.
The spinach monster.
The spinach monster?
The spinach monster.
Which supposedly is some kind of a legend that he's told him about to try to make him scared and go away. But okay, so the kid follows him, and he ends up both of them end up coming across a band. I think it was a band first that was playing.
Yeah, it's like a little rockabilly band or some shit.
Funky music. It sounded like punk.
They got some really nice shoes.
Yeah, and they seem to be kind of a gang. That was kind of like telling him, "We can beat your ass. Let me get that guitar." And what do you think about that fight scene there going on?
I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, like you got the bowler gang that rolls up on him after they meet the band, and he's drinking his fine liquor out of his broken glass there. And
right.
I
really liked I liked how their weapons were kind of sort of supposed to be bowling balls, I guess, and then they pulled out the bowling pin knives. That was pretty cool.
I liked the bowling pin sword, or was it a dagger that he pulled out of the bowling pin?
Yeah, each of them had a bowling pin dagger.
That was unique about the film, I think. So
it's a very good. It's like a good wake up call that not everyone in the movie is going to be as good at delivering this kind of dialogue as this dude. Well, so those guys were funny, I guess, but
I wouldn't have wanted to have been the kid that said "tag grit."
That kid was fucking creepy, dude. He just had a creepy vibe about him.
Yeah. Which he comes back a little later, which we'll get to eventually. So,
with the rockabilly ring race or whatever.
Well, that was supposedly like the underworld or some shit, because it was like underground, and you didn't know exactly what creatures those were. But
monsters.
It kind of looked like a darker version of Neverland from Hook for some reason, because he was up above, they were down below, the kid was screaming.
He was good at that.
Yeah, he was. He was. Shithead. So what do we think about the kid?
Oh, well, I mean...
They could have just left him down there.
I wanted him to get... You remember that part in Tropic Thunder where that kid is like attacking Ben Stiller and he just whips him off that bridge and he like does cartwheels through the air?
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I wanted to have happen to that kid by about 20 minutes into it,
Yeah.
Straight down a ravine, just at the bottom. No one will ever find him.
Yeah. It makes you wonder why the dude didn't just keep walking,
Yeah. I really liked the part where he chucked him in the trunk and then he just chucked a handful of gumballs at him. He should have just left it at that.
Right.
Well, he kept trying to be nasty to the kid, but for some reason the kid just kept wanting to be with him. In some way,
he's obviously a masochist.
Loves to be tortured.
obviously.
Well, he's got to have some type of weakness, man. It certainly wasn't his fucking hairdo and those sweet glasses.
No,
They got to find some way to make him
those
vulnerable.
glasses were definitely in some kind of disrepair. They were fucking taped. They were like broken.
I prefer the term well worn. You know, they were trail worn. That's what you said.
You know, I just realized though they missed a golden opportunity with this movie to have one of the opposing groups played by Weezer.
Oh god, that'd have been sick.
They should have done that.
Those guys in Weezer are weird enough. They might have just been down to fuck around with these guys too.
A modern retelling of this tale for some reason.
Weezer just needs to do a music video where it's like this whole movie, but in like short form music video, you know, kind of montage of scenes.
Beverly Hills.
We need a montage.
Nah.
Okay, that happened.
But in any case, there are a group of individuals that are evidently walking like Michael Myers to meet up with the character Buddy. And apparently death is on its way to Las Vegas as well to become king of Las Vegas. What do you think about the character of Death?
I think this was a very interesting way of doing it.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
He's got kind of a steampunk dark top hat thing going on.
A little bit, yeah. It's like I read someone, like some commenter described him as like a mix of Tom Petty and Slash, and I guess that's probably as good a description as any.
And his fellow horsemen kind of look like Wrong Turn rejects.
Yeah, kind of sounded like it too. And their way of shooting arrows, where they shoot a half dozen at a time, so they hit something.
Yeah, that's probably how I'd do it, you know. I thought they were cool, man. Like I said, my immediate impression of them was they were like rockabilly ring wraiths, and it kind of almost does follow in a sense that fucking first part of Lord of the Rings where they stop at like the inn or whatever in the tavern.
The ring.
Yeah, and then after they pass through, the dudes come through and fuck people up. Like I don't know, I enjoyed that. I think my favorite enemies were definitely those cavemen though that are chasing them on that like. It looked like something out of a fucking Rob Zombie video or something, that car they had.
The Geico cavemen going after them, yeah.
A gumball catapult on there. Or it was just flinging everything, actually. I think he flung a record at that little kid at one point.
Right.
What was that vehicle that they got into? Was it a Beetle or was it a Plymouth?
Oh, I have no idea, but I know that part reminded me a lot of Final Fantasy VIII when you get the car, because it's like it's real slow and runs out of gas or gets fucked up, like, and you just have to leave it. So I don't know if that was an influence on him making it. Maybe. I mean, it seemed like they packed little shit from everything into this, so it's possible. But it took me back to those days for sure when they got that shitty car.
Some of the film kind of reminded me of like what should I say, like the director of Hairspray,
John Waters.
John Waters, in a sense.
Oh, jeez.
Just a little bit.
It's about as messed up as something he would come up with.
They just screened Pink Flamingos somewhere over here recently.
Actually, I have a copy of Hairspray here that needs watching. I've never seen it. Seen some of his other stuff.
I've got Pink Flamingo.
Actually, one I did see. Now that you mention that, one I saw years ago, and I don't remember it well. But now that you mention that, there may be shades of Cecil B. Demented to this one. Yeah.
Or Crybaby.
Crybaby, yeah, definitely.
Oh man, my little brother was obsessed with that movie for a bit. That's when we had to like hide under the couch because he kept fucking watching Crybaby type thing.
Oh man,
Good times.
it's crazy.
He's down there with Harriet the Spy, that little bitch.
Oh.
Had to fucking chuck her under the couch too for a bit.
That's
But in any case, so after that bowling ball fight, they come across a family that evidently just kind of ups and steals their car, correct? Because of these windmill people, and that's when I got kind of like a Don Quixote kind of a vibe. Because why the hell would all these windmills be nearby with these dudes looking like space? They're walking in space or some shit through these.
All I know is that's where they saved Mac and Me's family, dude. Is that windmill field? That's all I remember about that shit. You guys watch Mac and Me before?
Yeah,
it's a masterpiece. No, I don't know, man. It's yeah, that windmill people. Yeah.
The windmill people, and they were mentioned in that underworld later on too. So because the kid was supposed to be sacrificed to the windmill gods or some shit.
They should have burnt him in a fucking wicker man. Is what they should have done. Send that little son of a bitch up to the clouds.
Give it up to the spirit in the sky. But in any case, so after actually that family, something's off about that family.
Ooh, yeah, boy, you know, there's some deeply troubling things going on there. Like he thought that guy was just some old friend of his or something. He's like, "Hey, did you ever pay off that Buick?" I like that part. That was good stuff. And that wife looking at him all crazy. I think they're supposed to be those people that lived like too close to the testing range or something. I don't know.
Could be. Well, I mean, the way they start the movie, it looks like a good portion of the country was annihilated by nukes. So that could be that it was kind of like the whole thing was the
these hills kind of people.
All right.
Yeah, it had an effect on some folks, to say the least.
Yep.
Kind of turned people a little strange.
Well, those cavemen, I got the idea that they were like, I don't know, somehow devolved into cavemen or something. They were pretty convincing.
They were pretty convincing, but I liked how they all were trying to fly to the car or jump onto the car, and they just couldn't make it, or the little kid was actually able to punch the one dude off.
We even got like a good indie car drag at one point right there. You know,
yeah,
Indiana Jones shit.
Yeah, they were trying to Flintstone it just a little bit.
And the guy that was hanging on was moving his head really weird. He was like, I don't know if that was like overacting or what he was doing, but his face was getting rocked off the bumper there or some shit. I don't know.
Sometime after that, where does that leave us? So after that, they end up. What was it? Oh yeah, they run into. Was it they had a desert walk, or what was it? The fact that that's when they went into the Star Wars cantina. That's right. They ended up running into this midget.
Oh yeah, tiny little midget. Strung up right there.
And he decides to leave the kid like with the midget and whoever was standing nearby him.
Right.
And he goes into this cantina looking thing, and obviously he found some kind of love there.
That chick putting the gum on his. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
So evidently, death has finally walked by again, and the kid sees that shit happening, and so he goes in and tries to warn the buddy, and some other kid ends up standing up and calling him a few names, like at that moment when he called him like a coward, or was it a coward that he called him there, or
something to that effect, and then he just whips his ass with that umbrella.
It was like a Back to the Future moment right there, calling him his ass chicken or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to turn around. It was like, I like how he said it. Go home, find yourself a fence.
He's like, get a new fucking guitar, basically.
Get a real guitar.
Yeah, that shit was awesome. And that look on his face, and he turns around, and all those chicks just bail on him.
Then of course,
you talking about the would-be El Mariachi? It's more like La Mariachi.
I like how his accent got thicker too, the more intimidating he was trying to be, and then he just got bitched down in front of all those girls.
Right.
That was great.
I do like the fact how Death was about to come at him in that tent, but he came out of the shadows. The way that he came out of the shadows and then went right back into the shadows. I do like that moment for some reason. That was cool. All right, so they're now escaping across the Sahara Desert or wherever the fuck they are.
Is that in fucking Nevada?
No.
I don't know.
I think I saw that was filmed partly in the Mojave.
I guess those are the Badlands or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But in any case, the kid that challenged him once again with a little ukulele guitar.
How you do that?
And then he just literally charges at him. Of course, that was kind of a sadder moment because he just kind of ran into his sword.
Hey, you gonna bring a juke to the fucking knife fight? You better know how to fucking bob and weave, dude. I'll tell you though, I keep that uke on me at all fucking times. If I was living in that apocalypse, it'd be a sweet weapon to get good with. No one's gonna expect you to kick their ass with a ukulele, especially if you just pulled out a second one and started dual wielding them. That'd be awesome.
God,
what is it? Exotic weapon proficiency ukulele.
There you go. Exactly.
I swear to God, there was a dueling of the banjos in there somewhere too. So
Dun, 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 dun,
at least
they could have done more actually with the idea of instruments as weapons. That would have been fun.
The more I think about it, the more I want to see the actual samurai movie version of it, where it's like an old school 70s style samurai flick, and the dude's just using one of. There's a name for those long, like Japanese guitars.
Yeah. I know too. I want to say, is it a biku, or am I just totally making that up?
It sounds like I feel like I've heard that. I'll allow it. I definitely have seen like a flute that was a dagger, and I think like one of the Lone Wolf and Cub movies, maybe. So
yeah,
there's some precedent for instrument-based weapons in those old samurai flicks.
I know that in Once Upon a Time in Mexico, there was a guitar that turned into a sawed-off shotgun. So
there you go. Yeah. It's definitely something they could have ran with.
Biwa, the one I was trying to think of was a biwa. There's a biwa, a shamisen.
The shamisen, I think, is the one I was thinking of, like where they're like,
yeah, that's the one that's kind of like a rounded square with a long stem. Yeah, biwa is more like a lute.
Both could be good weapons, I think that needs to be a thing.
Never know.
Yeah. Or you could have someone that actually has has a set of like a pair of tonfa that they use musically, but then they could kick your ass with them.
Oh yeah. Just fucking like cheese grating people with a harp or something. That'd be sweet. Come at them, fucking slice them like like those things that you see on the like as seen on TV.
Yeah.
Those things that slice the tomatoes.
So
Right.
after that little desert scene, then they're trudging along the desert a little bit more until evidently maybe they run out of steam. Of course, death comes across them once again, and he ends up sliding the kid down a sand dune. That was a cool part where he just used the guitar as a sled.
I can confirm sledding down sand dunes is a lot of fun too.
Have you done it on a guitar?
No, but I feel like I should probably try to change that at some point.
Something to put on the bucket list.
In true Snarf tradition too, they definitely missed an opportunity to leave that kid to his death out there in the desert.
Oh, they had multiple opportunities.
Well, the monster almost got him, but
Spinach Monster, and then in fucking Sideways, Paul Giamatti orders like a spinach fucking croissant at that little breakfast place.
Right.
So maybe that's this whole thing coming full circle here. That's the Spinach Monster in our time frame. It's just a simple breakfast croissant.
Right.
Oh, so that's
those damn Russian nukes, man.
Which reminds me. So apparently, whatever he was attacked by was actually part of a creature from this underworld of gladiator performances or whatever. Because evidently, the kid from before that still has an arrow in his back. He's not dead yet. He's got an arrow in his back, though. He is evidently...
I'm not dead yet. I think I'll go for a walk.
Yeah, just walk it off.
But anyway,
little gangrene never hurt anyone.
And Buddy walks across one of those wooden crosswalks that looks like it's the Empire's version of the Ewoks. And below him, the kid's screaming into the river dungeon they have brought him to. What did you think about those creatures that he was just slashing away with his sword?
They were there.
I didn't really see much of them. Did you?
No, not really, man. I mean, I enjoyed that whole sequence of the movie for sure. It was like a cool change of scenery and whatnot, I suppose. See, I think this was kind of the point in the movie where I was like, God damn, we need some blood spatter in this. You know, like it's really just missing like some Lone Wolf and Cub style, like dudes getting slit with the swords, and then it's just like fucking flying out of him and shit. That's what we needed in this, honestly, to like balance out some of the humor.
No blood splatter whatsoever. It was PG-13.
They played it a little safe, and I think by this point in the movie, I was kind of like, "Come on, you know, what are we doing here?"
So it's missing the Rambo First Blood. So
they could at least we could splice like just that scene of him knocking that guy off the helicopter with the rock into it over and over again. It probably would have spiced up this part of the movie. I will say that.
So after this particular piece of scenery, that's when they are just about to hit Nevada or Las Vegas when they come across the Russian army.
Yeah.
And
the Russians.
The Russians. The Russians are coming. The Russians are coming. Anyways, he's at first he's like, oh shit, this doesn't take longer than I thought it was. So what do you think about that whole montage?
What's that?
Well, the Russian commander was kind of amusing. And then they had that one dude who was like, what did he tell him to do? Like crane style or something, or tiger style or something?
Yeah.
Tiger claw. It was like, really?
He's got to combine them both into the tiger crane style. That's what I'm about.
Yeah. Yes.
So, do you really think that that guy was actually able to, Buddy was actually able to possibly kill every single Russian?
Oh, he did it in real life.
So.
That was real documentary footage, bro.
Yeah.
It really happened.
He was a very meticulous killer who made sure to remove all blood and all.
Well, according to the midget, apparently those bodies are like somewhere before Oz. So, because he said, "Go follow the yellow brick road, man."
He did say
That's
that.
just where all those dead bodies are ending up. They're just teleporting into that fucking Munchkin village. Like, raining bodies. They're running around. What the fuck is going on?
The Wicked Witch is preparing them and feeding them to the flying monkeys.
If you noticed
baking them into little gingerbread cookies or something.
If you noticed at the end of the movie, the kid's walking towards what looks like the Emerald City. You know,
it does. It does. Yes. Well, you knew that Oz was a much more adult place than they let on in the original stories.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was the Sin City of the folklore. Oz. But
I imagine all those munchkins there, dude. Lots of stuff that happened in Oz stayed in Oz. You know, I'm sure there's people popping in just to satisfy their desires. That might have been where that munchkin they had strung up came from.
Well, I mean, you know, they did have musical numbers after people dropped houses on other people.
Yeah, it is. It's people are getting burnt for real. You know, so. Boy, okay. I mean, I think it's a good time now to talk about how weird it is too that there isn't more of an effects end of this movie. I mean, because there is, but there isn't. There's like clearly a budget behind this. They could have been spraying some blood. It's a strange choice to make with it. Is this not an American movie or something? Is this like in some
$2 million? It says $2 million.
$2 million, and they couldn't fucking spare a few gallons for us, you know?
Well, they probably had to have at least 7 or 8 guitars with the way they were treating them, and they probably.
True. That's probably.
I'm sure they probably spent a lot of money on music rights. 'Cause that'll add up fast. They did get a drunken version of Good Lordy Miss Molly or something like that. Yeah, that was probably $50,000 right there.
Well, the music was actually done by a band called the Red Elvises.
Right. Yeah, I saw that. I thought that was a cool
first group.
name,
yeah.
Right?
So I did. I was digging the music because I do like that kind of music.
Right.
I like Tom Waits and like the Red Right Hand, you know, that kind of music. Myself, I am into rockabilly.
That's definitely like one of the most sort of endearing qualities of the movie is that shit for sure. And the cheesy humor and all the nods to other stuff from other genres. I mean, I think where it just sort of falls flat for me is the lack of blood. And
makes me wish they did have Tom Waits in it.
Which, before we go on about the special effects, there was that last battle between Death, and I think that was the point of the movie. The point of the entire movie was the death of rock and roll, or the death of metal. In which this does have a musical twist. I mean, Death was obviously a metaphor for heavy metal.
Right, and there is always that age-old sort of like, and you know, being somebody who fucking likes both, but definitely leans more on the metal side. Holy shit, that's my alarm clock. Hold on.
Right.
I've definitely came across the arguments with older folks of which is better, you know, like good old rock and roll or heavy metal. And I enjoyed that whole theme of the thing for sure.
And which do you enjoy more, the rock and roll or the heavy metal?
Honestly, depends on the mood I'm in. You know, if I'm trying to like barbecue or play some pool or something like that, maybe some cards, I'll go with the rock and roll. If I'm just trying to get drunk and like watch B movies and pass out on my fucking couch, then I'll probably be listening to metal, you know?
Right.
What about you, Jake? Do you prefer rock and roll or heavy metal?
Well, as presented here, I like both. They really didn't go nearly as metal as they could have. And like you said, the rock and roll was more old school, almost more rockabilly than, you know, which I love. I love some rockabilly. I love almost everything rock. So, but when it comes to metal, it's hit or miss. So, like when you get into the wailing and shrieking and screaming, I don't care for that. But the music I'll usually like almost no matter how hard they go. So it's just kind of depends. But I like I like that theme too, and I liked how they had that musical battle. You know, shades of Devil and Down to Georgia, and then you know when Death realizes he's losing, he just says, "Yeah, screw this." it just kind of goes to Plan B. That was kind of interesting. Yeah.
How many arrows do you think it took for them to realize that dead is dead?
Not enough.
Kill him until he dies from it.
So let's continue with the special effects here. So obviously there were some slow motion effects that were done where they slowed up the camera angles, and I think they kind of used some drop kicks in the air a couple of times.
Oh yeah, and they had that bit where he did like, I think it's like the Bruce Lee thing where he kicks the dude that's like standing right next to him and it's clearly a fake leg or whatever. You know, it was there, this, you know, and in terms of like, I mean, I don't know that they really had to address a set too much in this thing from a lot of it because they were, you know, just using the exterior stuff. Costume design was cool, I thought, you know, in terms of, you know, what quality of a movie it was. It's so bizarre to me. I mean, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, Dave. Yeah. Like, it feels like a movie that would have blood and gore in it.
It definitely does feel like it could have had the gore in it. I wonder if the director actually had, at one point in time, thought about that concept. But
he had to have, dude, because those old samurai movies are so full of that kind of stuff.
I mean, I wonder what kind of an animal this movie would have been if it would have had more of a Quentin Tarantino-ness to it, you know? Because
and included some of that shit, you know, like some Kill Bill style blood spray, like I was saying, like get that shit going.
The music put me in mind of a Tarantino film, which is kind of good. That's a good thing. His movies usually have great music.
Well, it had all those like sort of token elements of the things that make these kind of other movies like this what they are, you know? It's just, I feel like that fucking the blood was missing somehow. Maybe it's a case of, you know, he thought he could distribute it wider if it wasn't chock full of fucking gallons of blood or something.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Apparently, I think IMDb says that they were thinking about a trilogy originally, and I guess it just underperformed or whatever. But yeah, you might be right. If it was a little bloodier, it might have done better. I think a lot of times. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily liked it more, but I think it would have done better commercially. A lot of times, people want to do what sells and end up ruining their chances by trying to do what'll sell. Yeah.
It could be a case of that, you know. I mean, I imagine it's easier to distribute. I don't know if this is like available free just for people to see in different places, but
It's online.
Oh, we looked it up earlier. It's available on Amazon. It's actually not hard to get.
No, it's definitely not hard to get. But did anyone have any favorite scenes from the film?
Oh boy. Honestly, dude, I just for some reason really love that part where he chucks him in the trunk and then throws the gumballs at him. Like that's probably my favorite part of the whole movie.
That was good.
To pick for some reason.
That was pretty
fuck off, kid. There's some gumballs. Keep yourself busy. Like suck on some old dirty gumballs.
Right.
What about you, Jake? What was your favorite scene?
That was a good part. But I think I did like the part in the bar with the dude just kind of made an ass of himself and everyone just left him alone. That was kind of fun. And I will admit, again, partly because it was expectation, and it didn't fully live up to expectation. But the battles, the guitar battle between Buddy and Death was pretty cool. It's pretty fun. Yeah,
it's a bizarre, fun film for a night to me.
Honestly, I think my favorite part of it, other than like any individual scene, is just that damn title, man. I mean, we were basically able to both independently imagine the type of movie that you imagined, and it's not the movie we got, but it would be a cool movie on its own. That's like a good example of a fucking banging movie title, I think. Six String Samurai. It just rolls off the tongue too,
Right.
Well, did you guys have anything else that you wanted to say about this film before we wrapped this up here?
No.
I definitely say if you're like fans of any of the stuff that we've obviously mentioned, that this is, kind of a tribute to, I guess. You definitely and a good prerequisite is being a fan of like kind of crappy B movies.
Right.
If you go into it with that, and like I'm still struggling to understand how the budget of it was that high.
Yeah.
But
and like if anyone in the audience happens to work for a kick-ass animation studio like Production IG or something like that, or PA Works, or and of course if Weezer is watching, we need to get this thing rolling as a
fucking A, dude. And if any of you guys out there are familiar with using like RPG Maker and you want to make us like a JRPG where you just use all these characters with different musical weapons and shit, I'm down for
that.
One I thought was interesting is that the director of this film actually went on to direct, what was it, The Crow, The Wicked Prayer?
Right.
I didn't watch past City of Angels, man, and I've been told that I should. So,
that is one thing of note that I wanted to just say.
That is cool. That is cool that he's somehow connected to like something from definitely my childhood, at least.
So
and he's done a couple of documentaries.
The trilogy, if it had ever been made, past this film. To be honest, just out of curiosity, where they would have taken it.
Well, I would say, and if by some fucking quirk of destiny this ends up being heard by the dude that did this, bring the ruckus with it. If you're going to do a sequel, bring the blood, because that's what people are going to want to see. I mean, you got away with it this time, bro, but next time we're gonna need a little of that, the sweet pasta sauce, if you know what I'm saying.
In any case, I think that's all the time that we have for today, folks.
Okay.
So unless you wanted to talk about anything else that has something to do with the film, and then we talked about the music somewhat throughout, because that was definitely a high note for the film. We'll close out this discussion and just go see the film, folks. I mean, it's definitely a weird one.
It's worth seeing,
It's worth seeing at least once, because You know,
Right.
it's interesting seeing a film like this without all that blood going.
It is. I
Mhm.
should sort of like amend this to say the lack of blood doesn't make it bad. You know, it's just
Right.
it feels odd that it's not there to me. It's definitely something I'd like to see though in the
It
future
should
if they
have
do.
been there. It should have been there.
Yeah.
But in any case, don't tell that to Weezer. Anyways, so let's talk about where you're from and what you do. Mo, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm from Eastern Oregon. I pretty much just watch crappy movies and play video games a lot and read a lot of comic books. And lately I've been reviewing hentai games for the Famicom, which is a lot more entertaining than you'd think. And I'm doing definitely some Thundercats reviews. And I also got some Sega Master System stuff going on, as well as some shit for our comic club channel. So if you want to like get some comic reviews or anything that I talked about, just check out Drunken Master Studios and Happy Hour Comic Club. Also, of course, Sub Rebel Gaming Club. I got a review for Close Encounters of the Third Kind coming out with them. Other than that, I just hang out with these guys and do my best to not sound like an idiot while I talk about movies. So sub all their channels and definitely sub this and share it around and stuff. I think this has been a fun discussion. So
Definitely, man. Jake, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself before we head off for other sideways
about to
stories?
ride off into the fucking sunset on a guitar named Horse. I don't know.
Well, I'm Jake. I'm here in Central Virginia, where I am currently very amused by the juxtaposition of hentai games and Thundercats. That's a very interesting.
Right?
the But I of course am a avid movie watcher, collector, reviewer. I'm often guest on Septum Sin versus the World, and I do have my own YouTube channel that is never updated and will one day be updated again, called Kotobuki Jake. That's a nature themed channel, and similarly, I have a Hub Pages account that's never updated. But you know,
you
it's good
better
times.
start updating that channel, dude. I'm gonna shave the top of my head and just start updating it for you.
I may be tempted to do something. I just Anyway, and my phone is very, very displeased with me right now, so I will have to save the rest for after the main show tonight.
Awesome. I'll see you on your computers a momentarily.
Yeah.
And you actually did say you were actually going to try to find this film. So, in any case, my name is David Streggy. I run Inside Movies Galore as well as Delusions of Grandeur. Lately, things have just been chaotic here at home. So I am currently in the process of putting out a video update of some films that I've gotten over time and so on and so forth. So as far as working on some movie reviews, definitely gonna work on some of that eventually and get some of those out there. And we're going to go on about a film called Sideways momentarily with the Inside Movies Galore crew. So check that out and definitely like, share, and subscribe. And hopefully we didn't bore you too much with our ramblings on this film. But definitely go out and check the film out. It is fairly easy to find, and this is for you, Chad. Finally got to talk about it. I'm going to send this link to you afterwards, just to be a freaking bastard. And definitely check out some of the other reviews, discussions, anything you can, folks. So thank you so much. Have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are. Thank you so much. Enjoy.
All right.